I mean, I don't love to say it, but like when Maya is channeling Mia, her boobs quadruple in size.
She gets taller.
Yes, I mean it's like a combination of Shaman King and Yu-Gi-Oh.
She becomes Yami Maya.
Right, she becomes Yami Maya, where her tits get huge and she gets a law degree.
I wish
and her hair gets all spiky.
Wish that were me.
Welcome to Mortified, the Friendship Quest, a podcast where two long-distance friends... Yes?
That was my name today, is Objection.
Okay. A podcast where two long-distance friends bounce media recommendations, all in hopes the other will like it. I'm Aaron.
And as I said, I am Objection.
And this week, we investigate and litigate with Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney. Before we get way too personally involved in our cases, remember you can help us on Mortified Legitimacy Quest by subscribing to us on YouTube, iTunes, or Spotify, signing up for our monthly newsletter through the link in our show notes, or following us on Twitter and Tumblr at Mortified Pod. Leyla.
Aaron.
What do you know about the Ace Attorney series?
So I know that the lawyers are gay. That's most of what I knew before going in.
That is my understanding, too. Famed game designer Riley Rethel recently became obsessed with the Ace Attorney series, so all I know is from her fan fiction. So I don't... I was very surprised to see what this game is actually like, and we'll talk about it. I have complicated feelings, but it is certainly... The lawyers are very fun, I have to say.
I'm also a big fan of the lawyers. Did you know, this is my fun Ace Attorney fact that a beloved friend taught me. So Phoenix Wright's Japanese name is Naruhodo, which means it's like an exclamation that means like, of course, or I see. So sometimes he'll just say, oh, Naruhodo. And it's his own name, but it also means like, I see.
That's pretty good. I do like that everybody has fun pun names in this series. Like, there's one person who's like, her name is like Wendy Oldbag, and she's just like an old lady who talks a lot, which is very good. So, it's a good time.
Yeah, I love Oldbag. We'll talk a little bit about Oldbag on stage also, because that's my favorite.
That was
Oldbag.
Very good. So we played 3 cases, and this is just Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, which is, we played this on PC. This is the remaster. I believe this is originally a Game Boy game.
Oh.
Like a Game Boy Advance game, right? I'll double check that, but so we are playing the remastered version, and we only played 3 cases, so we didn't get that far, but,
that's 3/5 of the game.
Oh, wow. I guess, 60%. So, if how about, I don't know, I'll do the first one and the third one if you want to do the second one?
Sure thing.
Okay. So, case 1 is kind of like the tutorial one. Basically, you're Nick Wright, a.k.a. Phoenix Wright. It's your first day as a lawyer. You're 24 years old. And your first case is to help your friend, whose name is, I believe, Larry Butts.
Mm-hmm. If something smells, it's the Butts.
Mm-hmm. And he got you your lawyer job, kind of, somehow. And, he's being accused of murdering his girlfriend, which is, pretty dark for this, really lighthearted series. But basically, you have to help exonerate him. And what happens is, he's accused of, beating her to death with a statue of the Thinker by Rodin. And, it turns out that statue is a clock. But basically, the thing about this game, at least as far as this I know from this series, is that all the people that get called as, for witnesses for the prosecution, there's a 30% chance any one of them is actually the murderer. And in this case, it's just the guy, the first guy who gets called to witness for the prosecution is the murderer. He's like, oh, I was a salesman going door to door selling subscriptions. But then I called the police and I knew what time it was. But then it turns out there was like a power outage, and like also the clock, the statue is also a clock, and the clock's time was different because the girlfriend had been in Paris. And like this first thing kind of set the tone for, I was like, oh, this is gonna be a load of horseshit. Yeah, this is all gonna be made up.
Well, I got that hint when your first time on the stand as the defense, the judge looks at you and he goes, son, do you know what like cross-examination means, or like what victim means? Like just basic vocabulary.
And Nick is like, well, I did go to law school, so I guess.
I did go to law school specifically because of my friend Edgeworth, a very heterosexual thing to do. To really Elle Woodsing it, going to Harvard just to follow a man.
Yeah, it's something, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, so...
yeah, so that's how the first case goes.
That's how the first case goes, and basically... Mia, your boss, your hot boss, standing there next to you the entire time, and you're about to cross-examine, which I actually really like the cross-examinations. I think they're really silly. You're standing there about to cross-examine this guy, this door-to-door salesman, to defend your good friend Larry Butts. And Mia's like, when I don't know what's happening, I just cross-examine every fucking statement. And that's when you're like, I see. Naruhodo. We're gonna press every fucking statement. Yeah, the first case is really straightforward because it's a tutorial, right? Like it's not there to be super high stakes. I was surprised at how involved the next couple got. Yeah,
the next couple, so your boss is immediately killed, which was very shocking to me because I was like, I've seen her on multiple posters for this franchise, and she's killed in literally the first real case. What? Well,
we'll
get there.
Well, she sure is. Her physical body sure meets an end.
Well, does it?
Oh, does it? Well, you're right.
Does it? I don't love this portrayal of a 17-year-old, is all I'll say. We'll talk about it.
So, here's what happens. Mia calls up her little sister Maya. Shout out Maya. We love a little chaos goblin. And is like, hey, girl, I need you to hold some evidence for me, which I don't think that's...
Hey, boss, don't do that. She's a teenager.
Yeah. So, and she's very, she's like, hey, I have this, like, statue of the thinker. That's also a clock. I'm going to hollow it out and put some documents in it. I'm going to hand it over to you. And Maya's like, chill. And she's like, okay, meet me at 9 o'clock in my office to pick up the stuff. And also, we'll go get burgers, which, when I tell you I ordered a burger after playing that case, because I just started fucking craving one so bad. So... Unfortunately, 8:57 p.m., right before Maya fucking gets there, Mia's head is also bashed in with the Thinker statue. That statue is now a double murder weapon.
It's just like, hey, they shouldn't have given her the statue that was used as a murder weapon the first time.
No.
That seems irresponsible. 2, if you use it twice, then it's a cursed object.
Yeah, it is at that point kind of like the objects in Zachary Yang, where like they keep holding legendary intent.
Right, exactly.
That is now a murder weapon. No longer a clock, just haunted now. So as Phoenix arrives and sees Maya, poor 17-year-old Maya, just hunched over the corpse of her dead sister, a woman from the hotel across the street screams, and that is Miss April May. Miss April May calls the cops as she has just witnessed a murder, and that is how we get to the case. Gumshoe as the detective in this case, one of my favorite characters in fiction of all time, is the dumbest man alive.
Here's the thing about Detective Gumshoe is that I would have been much more anti-cop if I had played this game earlier, because he sucks and is bad at his job and is constantly just like, I want to imprison people. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He sucks.
During the first case, he does give Phoenix an outdated autopsy. Mm-hmm. And then Phoenix gets called on it on the stand. And Gumshoe's just like, oops.
Mm-hmm. And then Edward just is like, hey, by the way, your salary review is happening next month. And he's like, oh.
Yeah, poor Gumshoe's living on ramen. Maybe that's why his brain doesn't work so good. He's just got too much sodium in it. Mm-hmm. So basically, Mia for a long time has been collecting information on this guy who was responsible for her mother's death. Her mother, much like her and her sister, is a spirit medium.
At this point, I was like, hey, what? I thought this was a game about the law.
And spirit mediums. So, her mom was, the cops secretly called her mom to help on a prior case. Her mom got involved, and then basically the case went south and ruined her mom's life.
How should it ruin her mom's life? The cops called the spirit medium. That's not on the spirit medium. She did her job.
She did do her job.
The cops should have not called a psychic.
The cops should have maybe reconsidered. So, but, there's this man called Mr. White, Mr. Red White. He is the head of Blue Corp.
Yeah, I mean, like,
really
listen, fuck America, right? Like, hey, if you're gonna have a bad guy.
He is basically a blackmail dealer, and he is trying to frame Maya for her sister's murder. Because he knew that Mia was collecting information on him. So basically what they are positing is that Mia died, wrote her sister's name on the back of her seat with her own blood, and that Maya was the murderer for whatever reason. And because Mr. White is so powerful, he has bought a bunch of cops and lawyers in the city, is basically threatening Phoenix with, like, disbarment and, other unpleasantries. And
what happens is that Phoenix is investigating him, and then White is like, oh, by the way, you're the murderer now, and then you end up having to defend yourself in court.
Yeah, you're your own representation in court, which, by the way, inadvisable.
I mean, he is literally a lawyer, so, like, this is the only time where it's like, okay, sure, fine.
That's fair enough.
But, otherwise, maybe just go with the public defender.
Maybe just go with the public defender. So, through a series of hijinks, you figure out that, one, Miss April May, who breasted Boobily into the courtroom and distracted the jury and the judge.
Yeah, there's a bit where this is also where I was like, man, I hate this fucking judge. He's neither impartial nor intelligent. He's just like, oh, you want to cross and examine her? I thought her testimony was quite ... firm. And I was like, oh, this man has an erection at his day job. Great.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when she breasts Boobily around on the stand.
Listen, sometimes you just have to give a character trait whose character trait is titty, right?
That was hers. She had two. She had titty and feral, which I appreciate.
Yeah, that's true. Like, she was like a weird, like, evil cat person at one point.
Which I loved. So Miss April May is the secretary, I believe, of Mr. White. And, Phoenix basically...
They were, like, hooking up, right?
Well, they were certainly in a hotel room together with that stupid, weird bellboy.
The bellboy's a fucking pervert, too. He's involved. And, like, he does, like, a whole, like, minute-long talk about how April May kissed him on the cheek and about how bricked up he got over that. It's just like, hey, buddy, can you not?
Yeah. So
this is a court of law.
What you have to put together is that April May was wiretapping Mia's phone, and that basically what Mr. White is implying is that they both saw the murder from the hotel, not because they knew the murder was about to happen and were there to call the police, but because they had heard the murder taking place and then, like, saw a lamp coming down or saw a lamp broken on the ground. And you have to basically be like, one, you assumed that Mia was fleeing in the wrong direction because you were actually in front of her instead of behind her. One. Two, you couldn't have seen the lamp because the lamp was already broken by the time the murder took place. And they were like, well, I saw the lamp when I was in her office. And then you have to be like, no, because the bloody receipt on the back says you bought the lamp yesterday. So you couldn't have. And also, why would you notice a lamp? You freak, like, fucking lamp pervert.
You're right.
And then that's how you kind of put together your case to defend yourself and be like, hey, I didn't actually murder my boss. Now, the interesting thing is that Maya, again, spirit medium, when Phoenix has his back up against the wall and Edgeworth is breathing down his neck, now Maya does, under duress, channel Mia, and that does imply that somehow it's physical. Like, Mia basically physically appears next to you on the stand. In her like spirit medium outfit, which is very sexy.
I mean, I don't love to say it, but like when Maya is channeling Mia, her boobs quadruple in size.
She gets taller.
Yes, I mean it's like a combination of Shaman King and Yu-Gi-Oh.
She becomes Yami Maya.
Right, she becomes Yami Maya, where her tits get huge and she gets a law degree.
I wish
and her hair gets all spiky.
Wish that were me. Get real mad and, well, I don't need bigger tits than I already have. My back already hurts, but, a law degree would be nice. My mom would maybe be proud of me for once. Yeah, so that's case number 2.
It's wild. It's wild. It ends. There's a screenshot for where it ends, where basically, Maya and Mia are talking to Phoenix, and they're like, "Well, Phoenix, now you're gonna take over the law firm since Mia's dead." And there's like a screenshot of all three of them like putting their hands together, and it's Phoenix with his mouth open, like being like, and then the little kid sister being like smiling, and then the ghost of Maya putting her hand on top and looking at Phoenix with admiration and pride. And it's just like, oh, this is what this game series is, huh?
Yeah, well, it's slightly more than that. You want to talk about case 3?
Case 3, this is... So I want to say, like, at some point during case 2, I was just like, I need to walk through, because none of this makes any logical sense.
I was so proud of myself. I didn't have to use a walkthrough except for one tiny thing in case 3.
Really?
Yeah.
It's incredible.
I got through it on just, like, knowing what JRPGs from 2001 are like.
Listen, you gotta respect it.
It's my special skill.
But, like, a lot of the mechanics of this game are, like... you have to match up the evidence in, like, your inventory, basically, to certain statements they make during the, what do you call it?
Cross-examination.
The cross-examination, right? And, like, at some point, like, I just, like, I didn't, I thought I had pressed, like, almost all of his statements, but not quite all of them. So, like, I lost that mission. I was just like, well, fuck. But, like... I think the weakest part of this is the investigation bit where Phoenix becomes a fucking, police detective, right? And, like, goes around and, like, gathers evidence himself and talks to people. And, like, one, you're a lawyer, you shouldn't be doing that. But two, like... I think it is so much more interesting when it's a courtroom drama, unfortunately. And, like, I find, especially the navigation, like, going from place to place, I find it very clunky. Because, like, you can't just, like, go to any part of anything. You have to, like, go through certain windows and, like, travel through each window to get there. So, like, at this point, I'm using a walkthrough. But, like, I really needed it for the third case.
Yeah, I wonder if that improves, because so I have the trilogy on Steam, and I do intend to play through all of it because they're not long games, and I find them delightful fun. I wonder if that there's some quality of life improvements in that regard, because I think that's a very just 2001 thing that happened. Right. Everything in 2001 was a pain in the dick to play. So I'm hoping that a map gets introduced so I can just bounce from location to location instead of going from the office to the front of the studio to the employee area to the dressing room. Not there, back to the employee area, back to the fucking front of the studio. Now to outside of Studio 1. Now to like, it's just so much.
Right. I mean, you could also tell that this is a game that was, like, developed for the Game Boy Advance, like, because of the way that, like, it's very much chained to its mechanics, right? And the platform. So, like, I give it a lot of grace, but it was just such a huge pain in the butt to play. Anyway, case 3. So there's this guy. His name is it's Will Powers, right? Yes. And he plays the Steel Samurai, who is, like, a popular TV action hero.
Children's TV action hero.
Children, specifically, which is why it's very funny that Maya likes it. But, like, he, he's accused of murdering his co-star, Jack Hammer, who plays the evil role in this thing. And, like, he's found with like a spear jabbed in him or whatever, and like so you have to go and like figure out who saw the stabbing, or like why it's implicated in the stabbing, why they think that this guy's guilty. And like at first it's like, okay, Powers went to his trailer and took a nap for several hours, and they have like a picture of somebody in the costume that he wore, like going past the gate, and then like after that they found the other guy dead. And it's like, okay, that's weird. And the first day you spend a lot of time talking to the gate attendant, Wendy Oldbag, and like, you find out that she, saw that, Powers, hurt his ankle because they were doing a practice, and like he's dragging his foot in the camera. So it's like, okay, yeah, maybe that's possibly him. And then like, but they also figure out that like she's like messed with some of the photos at some point, like the security photos. And it's just like, at this point I'd be like, hey judge, clearly all of our witnesses are just making shit up. Like, come on, you have to give me something. And the judge is like, oh, well, you can just try again, I guess. I know you're clearly lying. You've perjured yourself 8 times already, but keep going. It's like, it makes me so mad.
Yeah, the judge is just like, okay, now make sure you add that to your testimony this time.
Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, bud, this person swore that, like, my boss's little sister was the murderer, and now she's saying it was me. Like, dude.
I'm pretty sure these games take place in California, too, so this is just an indictment of our justice system.
Oh, I didn't realize. I thought they were based off the Japanese justice system.
No, they take place in Nixon, California, I believe.
Okay.
I think. I don't know. I might be wrong.
Honestly,
sure.
That makes sense, because like this is a lot of like Hollywood, at least this third case, but global studios, right? But
from the fan fiction that I've read, I'm pretty sure it's California.
No, listen, I bet your fan fiction is definitely lore compliant. But like basically, then she starts talking about how like the studio wanted to keep something secret. So then they told her to like pretend that she hadn't been at the studio, and then like it's like, okay, so can you talk about the thing that they told you not to talk about? And she's just like, nope. And then basically you have to do some more investigating. You go back to the studio lot, and you meet Salmonella. Leyla, what do you think about Salmonella?
Salmonella is the worst. I wish he was the murderer.
You do kind of hope that it's him, because this is something that I associate specifically with Law and Order, right? But it's like, he is a guy who speaks in leet speak, right?
2001.
Right.
So
no, this
2001.
is exactly just like, this is what a nerd is, right? They, they're sweaty, they're perverts, and they talk like they're, in chat rooms from 1991. And he's like, whatever, lamers. And he says like dudes with like zeros in it. And it's just like, he is such a grating character. And like, obviously that's the point, but it is just like, this is I don't know. I don't know who this character's for. It's very weird.
It was for an audience in 2001. That's the problem.
But like, you're a gamer. You're playing the game in 2001. This is what they think of you.
That's true. That's very true.
I don't know.
He used the word sucksores, which
yes.
I haven't seen in 20 years.
I have never seen that used sincerely on the internet. And like, I've been using the internet since about 2001. So like, I don't know, folks.
Yeah, it was Salmonella's a lot. Unfortunately, he is not the fucking murderer.
Yeah, no. He should be shot though, because he does like creep on Maya. So anyway, we do thankfully, he's talking about how like he's the director, right?
He is the director, yeah.
Yeah. So he's talking about how he was like, they're like having like some sort of production meeting, and there's like a 15-minute break. But then, like, he was like, oh, we were eating T-bone steak. A bunch of this nonsense shit.
What studio?
Studio 2, right?
No.
Studio 1. Oh, go ahead, please.
What kind of children's television studio that was on the verge of bankruptcy 5 years ago can afford T-bone steaks for a Tuesday afternoon staff lunch? That's what I want to fucking know. I've been being fed pizza for a while now as an entertainment worker. Where's the steak?
Listen, I think maybe you found perhaps the source of their financial troubles. And also,
that's that drill tweet that's like, budget $50 on costumes, $50 on lighting, $3,600 on T-bone steak. Someone help me, my studio's dying.
Right, 100%. But as we'll learn here in a second, they're also backed by the mafia. So like,
what is it with Japanese storytellers insisting there's a mafia in California? If you'll recall, Death Note insisted the same shit.
Listen, all of America is New York City, as far as I'm concerned.
You're so right, bestie.
God. Anyway, basically, you find out also that there was a kid sneaking in, and he had like some pictures, which is very weird. It's like, okay,
the kid saw a murder.
Yeah.
That child saw someone die.
I don't think he did, though.
Didn't
right?
he?
He sees the fight. He sees like a fight, but he sees the Steel Samurai lose, right?
Yeah.
But like that's not the fight.
There's more. That's not the fight where he. You're right.
That's not the fight where he dies. Right. So anyway, that's why he's like taking pictures, but then deleting. I don't know why there's a kid here. Like, there's just so much like shit that like I do feel like, you know, it does like add something to the story, because it's like, hey, here's another weird character, and like kind of building out the lore, right? He has all these cards that like, you know, the production assistant is into, and like it's an interesting choice, but also I was just like, I don't give a shit about this kid. He's very annoying. It's very funny when he's on the stand, because they have to bring like a box for him to stand on, but like
and he's sassy to Edgeworth.
Yeah, and he's just like, fuck you, man. He carries a katana with him into the courtroom. Just insane. But like,
I loved him. He was so funny.
Yeah, I don't know. He drove me up a wall. But like, you gotta give it up. Funny kid. His name is Cody Hacker or something, right?
Hackins, I think.
Cody Hackins, yeah. Which, sure, why the fuck not? But eventually, you get to the point where like you reveal like the hidden shady truth about this production studio, right? You talk to Dee Vasquez,
hot,
which like is this hot producer goth lady who's like smoking from an old timey pipe, and also threatens to is about to have you killed by her mobsters at
career
one point because for digging too deep. And then thankfully Gumshoe comes in and saves you, which is very nice of Gumshoe. So, you know, I was mean to him earlier, but thank you for saving my life, detective. But like basically it's revealed that like Dee had been blackmailing the victim, who used to be like a big star, until something happened 5 years ago, some sort of accident.
Yeah, he killed a man.
He accidentally dropped a guy onto one of those really pointy steel grates that we probably shouldn't have in our gardens. Yeah, I don't
think OSHA would like that.
Yeah, it seems not safe. But anyway, and basically this producer, she had been like using that to blackmail this guy into, I guess, worse roles and not pay him very well. But anyway, he was coming to actually go kill her, and he was wearing the Steel Samurai outfit, and then he's like got the spear on him, but then like whenever he goes to confront her, she either accidentally or intentionally, you know, it's not, I don't remember exactly what happened, but basically same result. He falls on the same like spear, like a garden fence, and it kills him. And then she's like, well, mafia guy, why don't you just take him over to the studio and we'll, I don't know, I guess we'll put the spear there and we'll make it seem like he was killed by Miles Powers or whatever. And it's really, really wild, that they do this. And it's like, okay, we've got everything figured out. But like at this, what is the point where Edgeworth has to step in? Do you remember specifically?
There is, it's when Dee Vasquez is on the stand, which, by the way, I love her on the stand because she will just say one word, and Phoenix is like, are you always like this? And she goes, yes. It's just...
You gotta give it up.
Queen behavior. Phoenix is, like, up against the wall, and he's trying to cross-examine her, and, like, the judge is about to make a ruling, and Edgeworth objects to the ruling, and the judge is like, what the fuck are you doing? And Edgeworth is like, honestly, I was hoping I would think of it while you were talking, but now I don't know. And the judge is like, okay. And then he objects again. And he's like, actually, I want her to testify again because Nick asked, and I think that's a good idea. And Phoenix is like, why are you helping? Because so Edgeworth's whole reputation is like, he's going to get the guilty verdict no matter what.
Right.
And in the first couple of cases, it was pretty clear that the people being defended were innocent, but Edgeworth still
including both Mia's sister and Phoenix. He was trying to get them both imprisoned or executed.
Right, because that is his whole MO. He's the prosecutor, he will get the guilty verdict. But so suddenly all of a sudden we see this little turnover here where he's just like, okay, yeah, no, hold on. I want her to testify again. And he gets to cross-examine her again. This is where I had to look something up. Because you have to like wait for the right statement. You have to press her on everything. And you have to, the piece of the puzzle you're putting together here is that she couldn't have been eating T-bone steaks with salmonella during a break in a meeting because there were no bones on the plate. Which meant that instead of eating the steak... She put them in the incinerator, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Which required you to show a photo, I think, of the steaks to the prosecution during the right statement, which that was very contrived, and I wouldn't have thought of that.
This thing runs on fucking the Wizard of Oz logic. Like, it doesn't make any goddamn sense.
No, it does not. But yeah, so that was where Edgeworth starts to kind of do some weird stuff.
Yeah, he decides to torpedo his own case for some reason, and you know what?
Well,
and what happens at the end is he comes and talks to you, and he's like, I must say I hadn't expected to meet you again after all these years. In retrospect, it would have been better if we had not met. And thanks to you, I am saddled with unnecessary ... feelings.
There is no heterosexual explanation for that.
I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is where all the shippers get their material from. Like, it's so easy to read, a queer subtext onto that because it's like...
It's text.
Yeah, obviously, right? It's pretty darn close to being text.
You meet your childhood friend who went to law school because of you on the stand after however many years they've been apart, right? Several, I think. Miles, like something happened to Miles.
I mean, they're both like in their mid-20s, so like not that many years.
Well, at least 10. I think Miles goes to Germany when he's like between 10 to 14, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been at least a decade. So they see each other on the stand, and you have this reputation as this ruthless prosecutor from Germany, which good on you that you have you've passed the bar in America and then whatever certification you need in Germany. All right.
Shout-outs.
Shout-outs. You're 20 fucking maestro on the stand over here.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you see this young man you haven't seen in some time, and your whole MO crumbles. Suddenly, you want to find the truth because of Phoenix fucking Wright, dumbest boy on alive, who's just poking holes wherever he can poke them. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
No heterosexual explanation for it. I couldn't think of one if I tried.
It's great. It's perfect. You love to see it.
I love to see it. I love these gay lawyers. Well, Phoenix Wright is one of mine. He's a bisexual, but...
Is he true? Is that canon?
That is, I believe, canon, yeah.
Okay, shout-outs.
Well, it's not canon that he's bisexual, it's just that he could be gay, but I think he had a girlfriend he actually liked. Which I'll believe.
Okay.
Listen. I take my scraps where I can get them.
Listen, whomst among us? Yeah, I mean, like, that is ultimately the whole story of the game. I mean, actually, no, it's 3/5 of the story of the game. But yeah, those are the ones we covered. Here's the thing about this. I'm sure the gameplay and like quality of life stuff changes as the series gets more advanced and more developed. Like the most recent entry I think was like last year where they like go to like the 1800s Japan or whatever. But like at least with this first one, I was like, the gameplay is really lacking for me in a way that I found very, very difficult. But like, I can see why this has become such a beloved franchise because the writing of the characters is so strong and like it is so funny, like the way that everybody is just like such a fucking goofball. Like at one point, Phoenix is always like doing these like little asides. Like at one point, he's just saying to himself like, I'm a firm believer that humankind was made to keep both feet on the ground for like just like a complete nonsense thing to say.
Relatable, my guy. Every time everyone's like, oh, Leyla, why are you so afraid of planes? We weren't meant to be up there. We simply were not.
Right. Or like there's a bit where Gumshoe is telling you about how when you beat Edgeworth the first time, he's like, I saw him sipping tea and staring gloomily out the window. Like they're such funny and silly characters, but like it is like melodramatic in the way that like anime when it's at its best is. And it makes me wonder, like, there's got to be like an anime of this, right?
There's a stage play.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the stage play?
So I've seen 2 of them. And there are recordings of 2 of them, and they are just... I've never seen better casting in my life. All of those actors are so good. There's a clip floating around on Tumblr. I should have sent it to you, but I sent you other clips. There's a clip floating around on Tumblr that is a case where someone is like the murderer is communicating with Phoenix via like a phone or a walkie-talkie or something. Mm-hmm. And he's like, who's that in the background? And it's Edgeworth, but Phoenix doesn't want him to know it's Edgeworth because, their prosecution and defense are not supposed to be working together. And he goes, it's a cat. The guy's like, a cat? And Phoenix turns to Edgeworth and goes, yeah, a cat. And Edgeworth panics and then starts clearing his throat and just like goes, and puts his hands up. Like, like the cat, and he starts to go, nyan. And the guy on the phone goes, never mind, I don't give a shit. They're so goofy. Like, Gumshoe slips on a banana peel and break dances.
Okay, sure.
It's so good. Like, they're so fun, and they're so good. And it's, like, you don't have the burden of the mechanics for you to figure out the puzzle. It's just the guy playing Phoenix doing all the back and forth. I think they're delightful fun. They may or may not be on YouTube somewhere. So if you can't buy the DVD, which I do suggest you buy the DVD and support the troupe, but like if you can't, I won't tell you where, but I do know they are. They're great. They're a great time. I highly suggest watching at least a couple. There's like 5.
Also, I do want to say there is an Ace Attorney anime that came out in 2016. So, makes sense, right? But yes, like clearly I think that this series is best when you don't have the mechanics of the investigation. And also, full disclosure, I'm not really a mystery guy. I don't like I'm not a mystery game guy. I like mystery, like all the Knives Out shit, like I think is very good. But like having to piece together and like do like this point and click, like trying to figure out and piece clues together, I do find that very difficult and frustrating. So like it might just be a lot of personal taste, but like yeah, I mean I don't know, I really think this is at its best when its characters just to get to be themselves and interact with each other and like make these like a goofball slapstick like moments with each other.
See, I really like stealth and mystery games. I like piecing stuff like this together, and I like it the most when, if I get stuck, I have the option of just like bashing a bunch of things together like Barbies until something fits. Like that's just very compliant with the way my brain works. That's how I solve most Wordles, actually.
Listen,
we all have our strategies. But I will say, like, for how dated the mechanics were, which they are dated, right?
Right. Over 20 years at this point.
Yeah. For how dated they were, there were still moments where I was genuinely excited to figure something out. And, like, especially when Edgeworth has his little turn, I got, I know what's going to happen because I'm familiar with, like, the broad arc of this series. And again, I've read a lot of fanfiction in my time. People keep sending me gay lawyer fanfiction, and I enjoy it. Nom nom, give it to me. Because it's all very domestic, and that's just kind of my thing. So, but it was still like when you're seeing Edgeworth have his little turn, and it's surprising, and Nick is surprised, and you're putting together, and there's that in music, and it's making everything feel more intense, and the sound cues work really well. Like, it's just fun. You really feel like you're figuring something out, even though you're just kind of mashing together pieces of evidence that don't make sense on pure conjecture.
Yes, it's all like there's one point where Edgeworth is like, man, can you believe you're building your case on baseless conjecture? And I was like, yeah, this entire game is all just made up horseshit.
Well, I kind of of like that because I don't know if I want to play a believable courtroom drama.
Right, exactly. The actual, the more realistic it gets, right, the less fun it is. Like that's why like Law and Order works. But like if you've actually ever been to see a court case, it's like incredibly boring.
Yeah, exactly. So I much prefer this like silly, goofy, low stakes shit.
Right, 100%. Now there is one question. So you mentioned this takes place in California. And I thought this was kind of a commentary on the, Japanese justice system, which is famously pro-prosecutor. Like 99% of cases, are solved, go for the prosecution, right? Something like that. But like, what do we think this game's politics are based on the first couple of cases we've played? Because it seems like, it's pretty anti-prosecutor, pretty anti, justice system generally. Which I think is a pretty radical thing to do in 2001.
I don't know if it's anti either of those things. I do think it's pro underdog.
That is probably a more nuanced and accurate take.
Because I just don't think that I would love to talk to somebody who actually knows. My sense that I got is just that the function of lawyer and the function of detective and cop are just kind of shorthand for the gameplay function and not necessarily commentary, right? So this person is a quote unquote cop. They are going to give you evidence or be on the scene for you to talk to. This person is a lawyer. They're going to present the evidence. But sure. It's just a puzzle game, right? So I'm just not sure that it had that much of at least not this first one. I will be playing through the rest of the trilogy, so I'm curious to see if that evolves at all. But I just honestly I'm not sure it had a greater agenda.
I think that's probably true. But I was just I was surprised to see. Especially coming from, Japan with the famously pro-prosecution, law scene, and, coming out in the year 2000, if it's set in America, right, you're going to be very pro-prosecution, and unfortunately in many ways our law system is set up to be pro-prosecution.
Unless a rich person's on the stand.
Listen, but it was just kind of nice just to right, the ways in which propaganda, right, I'm thinking of Brooklyn Nine-Nine even, which is a show that's kind of fun and goofy, but also the defense attorneys are always slime balls in that. It does make me kind of happy to see that the defense attorney is the good guy here, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think it's nice that this genuinely good guy is just trying his best to get people off the... I do think the cases get a little bit more how do I put this? I think there is a case where Phoenix falsifies evidence or something in the future. He gets disbarred. It's a whole thing. So if you see fan art of him in a beanie, that's what that's from. He gets disbarred. Wow.
Brutal.
Yeah. So I think it gets a little bit more complicated, but I'm not sure if it gets any more complicated in its stance on the justice system. This is just silly, goofy shit. It is the most anime interpretation of a courtroom you could possibly get.
And you know what? I think it largely hits at what it's going for, even if I don't like the gameplay. So, shout outs. If we were going to make, for our marketing minute, a visual novel / puzzle game investigation kind of series around a particular, profession, what would we make and how would we wildly misrepresent it?
Huh. Do you have...
So my idea was just make an anti-cop visual novel that's this is what it's like to actually be a cop. And a lot of the gameplay is just well, you have to racially profile this person because otherwise you're not going to meet your quota and you're going to get in trouble. And all your coworkers are weird degrees of white supremacist or just guys who are okay with, a terrible system. So...
Gorsh. Yeah, that one would be tough to do.
That's not a fun game to play. I don't want to play that game.
That's not a fun game to play. I think you could maybe do that if everyone was aliens.
Yeah, that's yeah. You put it in the XCOM universe.
Yeah. Put it in the XCOM universe, make it everything aliens, and go from there. My idea was a little less charged, I suppose. I would like to see this.
I bet.
I would like to see this about sanitation workers.
Oh.
Yeah.
Say more.
I want like a. I want to see like stuck up weird recycling truck drivers. I want to see some fucking lifted garbage trucks. You know, I want to see like turf wars between sanitation groups. I want to see silly office shenanigans. I want to see fucking, you know, the managers trying to get the most out of these like overworked people. I actually also wouldn't mind if the garbage was sentient and monsters.
Sure, why not?
Why not? You know, we have spirit mediums in the fucking lawyer game. Why not sentient monster garbage?
No, this rules. This is great. I love this. Yeah, there's definitely different factions based on the kinds of garbage you pick up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, this would be really cool. Shout outs to sanitation workers.
Capcom, call us.
Yeah, seriously.
Actually, Capcom, you can't call me right now. That would be a conflict of interest as somebody working on a Konami property. But once I'm done,
there you go.
Call me.
Yeah, no. But yeah, I'm glad we took a look at this. You know, it's been a big blind spot in my media consumption. So
yeah,
I'm glad we checked it out.
I mean, it's always fun for us to look at things from like foundational things from the 2000s, right? So,
Leyla, when we are not just exploring the history of video games and culture and legal system, where can we be found online? Actually, Leyla, where can we be found online?
Yeah, I was gonna say, Bestie, what a great question. Twitter is dying. It's like actually
Twitter fully did not work yesterday.
Yeah,
it's bad.
So I guess you can just find me on Tumblr now, Leylses. I barely post on that account, though, and unless I know you, I don't give out my shitpost ones, so, like, you know, here's the thing. There's this artist, his name is, Nico Marley. He is a prolific, like, DreamWorks concept artist. He's responsible for a lot of iconic looks for, like, How to Train Your Dragon and a bunch of other movies. That motherfucker does not have a single online portfolio and still gets work. And that has always been my career goal, and I think Elon Musk is forcing me closer to it.
Well, shout outs, you know. I truly do hope that one day we can return to an era where we did not have to constantly be performing something online. But that day is not coming for me, certainly not for a long time. You can find me at Monster Factory Fanfic on Tumblr, Aaron SXL on co-host. I got a YouTube channel that's at AA Voigt. Just released a new video about the fencing RPG Core. If you like roleplay with, swords, but it's mostly about your teammates. If you like sports anime, you'll love that game. So check out that review.
Yeah. Also, if you we are coming up on our 150 episode special. So if you haven't been around for a while, usually what we do when we hit a 50 episode milestone is we do a best of, and then we do some sort of special. If you have an idea of something you'd like to see us cover, or a game we should play, or anything like that, mortifiedpod@gmail.com. I am also happy to take suggestions. We're not doing this right now, but while I'm telling you to email us, if you have any ideas for, Patreon rewards, we'll backlog that. You can send that to us too at the same email.
Our theme song is Obsolete by Keshko from the album Filmmakers Reference Kit Volume 2. You can find more of their music at keshcode@bandcamp.com. Layla, how shall we end this episode of Mortified?
You with your objections and your evidence? Just who do you think you are?
We'll see you all next week.